When temperatures rise and air conditioners have to work overtime during the summer months, there are concerns about the demand placed on the region's power supply. Ellen Foley, Director of Communications for ISO New England, came in to talk about that and began with an explanation of just what ISO New England is and what it does.
So ISO stands for Independent System Operator, and we have three primary responsibilities. The first thing is that we operate the power grid. And here in New England, the power grid is made up of 350 power plants that are located throughout the 6 New England states. And it's a network of power plants with transmission lines. And so there's 9,000 miles of high voltage transmission lines that interconnect the power plants that produce the electricity. So we operate the power grid from our control center in Holyoke, Massachusetts. We're a Western Massachusetts-based company. The second thing that we do is that we manage the stock exchange for buying and selling wholesale power. Because we're on the wholesale side of the business, there's over 400 companies that participate in the marketplace, and we manage the internet system for buying and selling. So ISO New England doesn't buy or sell the wholesale power, but we facilitate the purchase and sales. And the third thing that we do is that we plan. And what that means is that we conduct engineering plans, long-term forecasts and system studies, because in addition to our day-to-day responsibilities of operating the grid and running the marketplace, we also have to maintain reliability standards that are set, by the federal government. We are regulated by the federal government.
Even if there's a significant prolonged heat wave, but we would have to watch that if that situation develops. Is that about right?
That's about right. So we conduct, in addition to those long-term 10-year forecasts, we also do short-term seasonal forecasts. So here in New England, we use the most electricity in the summer. We actually were a winter peaking system where we used the most electricity in the winter about 30 years ago, but because of the widespread use of air conditioning, we are now we now are a summer peaking system. So we do seasonal forecasts, and we take a look at what we expect for consumer demand, what we expect for retirements of power plants, what we can expect from our neighboring power grids. We have a neighboring power grid to the west in New York, and we also bring in power from our Canadian neighbors in Quebec and New Brunswick. And we also take a look at what we're going to get from energy efficiency measures, and also, now we look at solar, how much solar is on the system, and we take a look at that as well.
All-time New England peak power use, according to you folks, is back in 2006, a heat wave, 28,130 megawatts. So that was 70 some megawatts under your absolute peak. And the confidence is that even now, a decade and a little more later, and I'm sure more folks have more air conditioners, but maybe more sophisticated air conditioners that work a little better with the power grid. The confidence is there that we'll be okay as this summer goes.
We do expect to have enough supply to meet demand. Our peak was 11 years ago in August of 2006. But since then, a lot of energy efficiency measures have been taken, and also, the growth of other renewables such as the solar, photovoltaic has also grown as well. So we do expect to meet our forecasted peak load, which again, I'm going to throw out some numbers at you. It's for a normal summer day, we expect to reach 26,600 megawatts. So that's shy of the record from 11 years ago. If we hit a really hot stretch of weather, we could see a peak of 28,800. So we could go beyond that peak, but again, it will depend on the weather, and it will depend on electricity usage.
There's a 1,500 megawatt power plant in the eastern part of the state. It's being retired. About 700 megawatts of planned new generating capacity was hoped would be ready for this summer. The status of that, I guess, is still uncertain at this point. That's not an awful lot of capacity, but still, every megawatt counts as you get into a real hot weather situation. Is that a concern at all?
Again, that is, so the power plant that is retiring, it's retiring in southeastern Massachusetts. It's 1,500 megawatts. It's a planned retirement, so we built that into the forecast numbers. With respect to the delay of the new generating resources that are coming online, that was unexpected for us as we planned our forecast, and that is why if we do hit peak conditions, we may see, tight supply and demand margins, but we do expect to be able to manage through it.
Ellen Foley, Director of Communication for ISO New England, thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you so much.